If 2025 was truly a rebuilding year for Oregon, then the rest of college football should be very uncomfortable. Because rebuilding teams are not supposed to reach the college football playoff semifinal. They're not supposed to win multiple playoff games, and they're not supposed to look like they belong in January. So either 2025 wasn't a rebuild, or Oregon is way ahead of schedule. And what they learned in that playoff run might be the most important part of 2026. My name is Zach, welcome to the Sports Corner at Choose Adventure Media, and let's get into it. Coming into last season, the narrative was simple. Young quarterback, young defense, roster turnover. The expectation wasn't regression, but it wasn't semifinal either. And that's what makes this interesting. Because when a young team gets January reps early, it's going to compress that championship timeline. Those extra games aren't just resume boosters, they're stress tests. They expose your depth, they expose your discipline, they expose your emotional control. And Oregon didn't just experience one type of playoff game, they experienced 3 completely different environments, each one teaching a different lesson. So let's start with the first round matchup against the James Madison Dukes. Oregon jumped out early. It looked like the gap in talent we all expected. The Ducks' offense was explosive, and they jumped out to a comfortable lead. But James Madison didn't reach the playoff by accident. You don't get there without discipline and great coaching. And late in that game, when Oregon's intensity dipped, the Dukes just kept executing. And that's the first lesson. At this level, you don't get to toggle your focus on and off. Even the lower-seeded conference champion playoff teams are good enough to punish you if you drift. It's similar to what happened in 2024 against Idaho when the Ducks couldn't run the ball because of the offensive line, and practice became about standards. You're responsible for every single snap, and James Madison reinforced that on a bigger stage. Championship level teams don't just dominate early, they finish with the same precision they started with. For a young roster, feeling that drop off in real time matters, because next time they'll recognize it sooner. Then came the quarterfinal against the Texas Tech Red Raiders, which was a completely different type of game. This one was low scoring, physical, and defensive. Earlier in the year, like in that Iowa game, Oregon looked kind of tight in that kind of environment. Almost like they were waiting for a big play to happen instead of embracing the grind. But in this one, they didn't press. They won 23-0, a playoff shutout. And for a roster built around speed and offensive firepower, that kind of performance mattered. Because it proved they could win without explosion. They could lean on their defense, they could stay patient, they could accept field position football, and it proved this team has grit. And that's how you grow an identity. And for a young team, learning you can win in multiple ways is massive. Because January doesn't care how you prefer to win, it forces you to adapt. Then came the semifinal rematch against the Indiana Hoosiers, and this is where the real 2026 conversation begins. This may be hard to believe, but I really do believe Oregon was better prepared the second time. You could hear it in Dante's comments leading into the game. His tone was sharper, the understanding of Indiana's defensive looks was clearer, and the mentality felt more settled. I feel like Dante knew where he needed to focus his preparation. The team didn't look overwhelmed, the defense showed up, the roster competed, and even after 2 or 3 early mistakes, the game wasn't gone yet, which is really important, because that tells you Oregon wasn't outclassed, they belong at the table. They were undone situationally, and here's the honest takeaway. If Dante plays average in that game, not spectacular, not transcendent, just steady, Oregon probably has a real chance to win. But at that stage, catastrophic mistakes are amplified. However, here's what's encouraging. Earlier in the season, when Dante made mistakes, the downward spiral happened immediately. In the semifinal, he held on longer. There was visible growth in how long he stayed composed. The tools are obvious, the roster is good enough, the preparation improved. The final layer is mental consistency under pressure, and that's the layer that decides championships. I'm curious where you land on this. Was that semifinal about quarterback execution, or am I oversimplifying it? Let me know what you think in the comments. This is why the playoff run matters more than the narrative. Most rebuilding teams don't get to learn these lessons until they're older. Oregon learned them while they're still young. They learned how long a season really feels from August to mid-January. They learned how different playoff styles stress different parts of your identity. They learned how thin the line is between advancing and going home. They learned how to deal with injuries and setbacks. And they learned that talent alone isn't what ends seasons. Execution decides who moves on and who goes home. So let's call the 2025 season what it really is. It was labeled a rebuild, it turned into a semifinal run, and it exposed exactly what's left to fix. The defense proved it belongs. The trenches proved they can hold up. The roster proved it can compete in January. Now the only question is whether the final lesson sticks. Because if the quarterback leap matches the experience they just gained, then this isn't a team building towards something, it's a team arriving. And if that's what a rebuilding year looked like, then the Big Ten and the rest of the country better watch out. If you enjoy more breakdowns like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.